Ray Catterley with the Hemp Build Network, and we're here in Dripping Springs, Texas with Noralinda Ureste at her project that is underway and under construction. Gail Borscht was the architect on there, and Brad King was the builder and consultant on the plaster and the Hempcrete, and we'll get into that in a minute. But what I like to do first is, why'd you decide to do this? Tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you came about having an interest in the healthy, sustainable living and this project and your migration out here, because it's a wonderful story.
Yeah, it can get kind of long, but I'll try to keep it short. My mom, about 25 years ago, was diagnosed with multiple chemical sensitivities. And it was really hard for her to travel because she was very allergic to fragrances, detergents, and so she couldn't really stay in a conventional hotel.
Yeah.
And so about 8 years ago, my husband and I decided we wanted to build something for people like my mom that were sensitive to chemicals, that were sensitive to molds, for people that might be sensitive to EMFs. And so that's kind of what started our journey in learning about how to do this. And so from there, I got a building biology certification, and then we moved from Austin to Dripping Springs on 16 acres. And then we met Gail and Brad, and it all started to come together.
And so the main thing is, so anybody who has those hypersensitivities, whether it's the electromagnetic fields or the chemicals that are in our built environment all around us, they can come here, stay, and basically detox. Is that right?
Yeah, it's meant to be very clean. All natural materials are going to be used. Along with the Hempcrete, we'll be using clay plasters and lime plasters. The air conditioning system will be HEPA quality. We plan to use very few glues, and any kind of no paints will be used. Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, and then we'll go through and get a lot more into that as we go through the details and the functions of the house, because there's a lot to point out that you would miss if you don't notice these things. And then I notice these things because of all the fix and flip that we've done through the years, to where you might have a modern house and parts of it need to be torn out because they're either moldy or not working right, and then the occupants are suffering because of it, and they don't even know why. Yeah. Because it's not like they don't have hairy walls. There's just mold that's in a higher concentration throughout the house, or whatever that case may be. And so we'll get into there. I do want to point out that Gail Borscht has another interview. She's one of the contributors to our mastermind group, and so find her interview. There's several others that we've talked to that they bring their story and their journey along and their professional engagement and sharing ideas. But now let's get going through your project.
Let's go.
Okay, so before we go inside, there's several things that I wanted to point out that are features that kept me up at night when I was trying to figure them out for my own projects. And then you mentioned the engagement with Brad and Gail when you were coming in. And then now, myself, I needed to learn how to do the flashing and have all these things and have all the parts come together with the walls and the ceiling transitions and things. And you were telling me that they kind of guided you along the way, and you just told them what you want as far as the concept. Tell us about your initial conversations and how that was initiated and who was driving that conversation and how that meeting of the minds came together.
Yeah, I mean, as a developer, I really trust Gail and Brad to make good decisions for the building. They knew my sensibilities around mold mitigation, and making sure that we managed all the moisture in the building. And so details like the flashing, we all work together, Gail as the architect to draw it, but also consulting with Brad on what would be best as far as understanding the depth of the render and of the final finish, and making sure that the flashing, worked with the final coating. So it was really, I would say, a group effort, and an integrated design, I believe, is what it is,
And it has
called.
to be, because you could have a wonderful idea that under normal circumstances with conventional building materials would flow just fine, but if you do it 1, 2, 3 like normal, it's terrible. You've got to do it 1, 3, 2, and then now you can cover everything. And so there's a lot of that. And that's one of the things that I really want to stress is the developer or the builder getting together with a meeting of the minds early with the architect and the builder and even the supplier, because the materials matter, because on-site job logistics are important. And I remember you had your some of the supplier from the northern part of the U.S. come down here and was on your project. And so those suppliers at this point in the industry are very interested in your project and will make sure and engage with you. Some of the things that I like the most, and I like to point out, because most of the enemy of any built space is moisture. And take a look at these nice overhangs here. These are luxurious. And I think that was Brad with the emphasis on that, because it's part of your watershed for the plaster, because this plaster, if you soak it with water, the water is going to penetrate this wall if you're asking it to shed all of the water. And then there's also this right here where you've got a sill that come in where you can see this groove under here to create a drip edge right in here. Also, belt and suspenders, you've got pan flashing under your window because you've got a fantastic window. It's very nice. These are the higher end wood windows, and so you want to ask them to be a window. You don't want to ask them to shed all the water, because they're going to wear out more and they're going to fail at a higher rate. But when you give them all of what they need up here, and then the shedding water up top, and then making sure that there's no water wicking up into them, now that window is going to give you good service for a lifetime. And those are some of the things that I know Brad was happy to bring in. And he also, I like the look of this plaster, but he made a humorous comment to say, like, if you're filming this, make sure that everybody knows this isn't my final coat on here. But I was like, man, this is a nice look in and of itself, but he'll be coming back and giving a nice smooth finish over there, whatever the finish is on there. But another point on the stage of construction is that you just got dried in, and now you're using this as show and tell. And so now people can look, learn about, and then be a part of this development, and then now you're all dried in. So this isn't the final plaster. So we're going to show how this works. So tell us a little bit more about the detail on this kerf that's a drip edge that sheds this water away. And not only does it take it away from the window, but it takes it away from the actual building.
Yeah, basically when water hits the sill, this is sloped so that the water will move away from the wall. But also, because water is sticky, it has surface tension, it will want to curve along the sill and down the wall. But because we have this curve right here, it breaks that surface tension, and so the water will drip off the sill rather than going down the wall.
And then we're going to go in and we're going to see things inside. So let's make our way that way. So there's a ton of things that I love about this cabin and the way you've built it out, but tell us about the floor. This is so unique, and you don't see it that much because it's usually a slab on grade. And I know y'all were doing something with the grounding and the EMFs and the insulation, and then I've had bad knees most of my life, and I really appreciate something other than concrete.
Yeah.
And so tell us about the decision process on here and what y'all are accomplishing with this.
Yeah, the Hempcrete, it's a denser, I guess, grade of Hempcrete than the walls are. And yeah, it's meant to insulate the floor from cold, heat, but also it's kind of a subfloor, so we're not using any plywood because we wanted to stay away from adhesives as much as we could. It's not totally eliminated. We have some OSB in the ceiling system, but on the ground we were able to eliminate using any kind of plywood or OSB. And then on top of this, we're going to be doing an earthen floor where we'll install some copper wiring. And that copper wiring is going to be grounded. And so when you walk on this floor, you'll be grounded like you are when you walk out in the grass or in a meadow. So yeah, that was kind of our thought process.
And that would be difficult to accomplish if you didn't have the limestone, the drainage, you've got a nice topography and soil type that accommodates that type of effort. Because if you go to East Texas and do that, you're going to have water coming up. But right here, you're on a nice slope and you've got good drainage soils. And so that's a perfect fit for that.
Yeah.
And so is this what we're seeing right here, where you're going to have the difference in the depth of the hempcrete, and then where is your floor going to come to at that level?
The floor is going to come to right at the bottom of that piece of wood lumber right there.
And then your baseboards are going to come in and hide your electrical channel. So building out a channel is something that we incorporated as well, and I really love doing that. And so you've got it in conduit as well.
Yes.
But if you ever need to change something or repair something, it's nice and easy.
Yeah, the channel was really important to us. What we really tried to do with all of the utilities in the cottage is use kind of an open system where we will be able to get to all of the electrical, all of the plumbing, and all of our HVAC equipment so that we can easily service everything. And we can take a look at the mechanical room here in a second. But the whole point is that we can service it, but that we can also inspect it so that if there ever is a leak or anything like that, if there is condensation that we need to deal with the air conditioning system, that we can get to that easily and service it.
Yeah, and I thought that was brilliant, and I've been incorporating that into designs as well. So if you'll notice throughout the whole living space, there's no utility closet to go into, and then we can go ahead and take a look at that right now while we're on it, and then keep the cameras rolling and we'll show you how this is on the outside. And as a landlord on a short-term rental, this is a dream to be able to access the utilities and then not have to disturb the guests. Tell us what you got going on in here.
Yeah, so you can see inside the mechanical room on this wall is the kitchen, and this is all the plumbing for the kitchen and the electrical. Over here on the other side of the wall is the bathroom, so you'll see all of the plumbing here. And then we have our vent system to go up through the roof there.
So there's a lot of innovation in this one corner alone, and we can see a lot about these built-ins and how they're making their way into being a finished look, and then also some of the architectural features that are possible on the windows, and then how Nora's gone above and beyond on your ceiling in there. But let's start with this. This is a nice, beautiful, finished, built-in shelf. Tell us about this.
So this is mesquite. That's a very hard wood, and it's salvaged. It's reclaimed. This was, I think it was reclaimed from Bastrop, but I bought it from a man in Lakeway who had been storing this as his personal stash, and he was ready to say goodbye to it. And he posted a post on Facebook Marketplace, and I found him. And I was originally just going to buy the mesquite from him, but I found out he finished it as well. So he was able to work with me to finish it with all non-toxic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We just used, I believe, as a tongue oil that we used on it. And yeah, he did that for us. He sanded it, he finished it. He has a hobby little mill that he uses to sand and to cut everything. And he did glue some pieces together, so there is a little bit of wood glue in here, but not much. And yeah, they're so beautiful, and he was so lovely to work with. So,
oh, yeah, just the color of the mesquite. And if you find any mesquite, it also makes for some delicious smoked barbecue. And so a lot of it goes for that in the Texas market area. And then also mesquite will grow kind of cattywampus and in a curve, so you don't get any long straight boards. There was a colleague years ago that was talking about growing mesquite. And I said, that's a long-term business plan to grow them nice and straight. And he goes, well, when we start to harvest, it'll be good. But this is a very hard wood. You can beat on it with a hammer and you're not going to dent this wood. Yeah. It is a fabulous wood.
It will outlast us.
Yeah, and it's local here. But you've got these beautiful built-in shelves because you thought ahead at your framing stage and then designed all this in.
Yes.
And so you can see how the metal is built in, attached back at the frame. The hempcrete goes around, and then now you've got the finished product here. Tell us about the design on your taper back into the windows, and then we'll talk a little bit about how Brad uses this material, the spider lath, and we've got some samples of it over there as well.
Yeah, this is a design detail that Gail Borst helped us work through. The chamfering of the walls helps to bring in more light, but also kind of in here you'll see, I don't know if you can see it in here, but there is a neoprene ceiling here. Like I said, we wanted to avoid using glues and foams, and so neoprene, even though it is a petroleum product, is very benign as far as odors. So that was really, really important to us and for the guests that we want to welcome here.
Here's an
And then-
example of that back here.
Yeah.
You've got, you see how that'll compress and then hold in and then create a seal around your windows so you don't have to put in your spray foam or any other type of chemical to seal that off. And this is what that spider lath looks like. It's a fiberglass product that when you incorporate that into a plaster, it makes it extremely strong. And Nora, I'll let you explain how they've got that up around the window here and why it's there and not in the rest of the wall.
Yeah, I believe it's because this piece is a bit vulnerable, and I believe in all the pieces where things are a little bit vulnerable with the plaster, where the framing is, and kind of corners here. They use this to reinforce the plaster.
And so that's just stapled in, and then that'll be part of the plaster when it goes over the tapered edge as well as the wall field. It'll all come together nicely and then be part of the plaster. And so the plaster can go into hemp. Hemp is a surface that has a nice physical bond, and it keys into it and grabs hold, and then it'll do that on the lath as well. And then it also has the proper bonding agents because it is the lime in and of itself as well, so it adheres very nicely. And so that helps that out. Great details. So I explore a lot of different flashing options. If you're going to use Hempcrete, you can do a lot of different things along this surface area here. You can have your framing come in right here. You can see how they've got exposed Hempcrete, and they've got the pan flashing that supports the window, and we saw it on the outside, now we see it on the inside. This is not normal. I know this fits in your project because what are your other options but some sort of synthetic, either a liquid applied, peel and stick, something of that nature. But this is a non-toxic option that is clearly best in class. But talk about some of that push-pull as y'all were going through that.
Yeah, so we wanted to use the most benign material we could use for our flashing. We know flashing is super important to manage, water, rainwater. And we chose to use stainless steel. And these are fabricated by a local fabricator in South Austin. And yeah, we thought long and hard about the design, where it was placed, how big it should be in relation to the window. So they're just a little bit bigger than the window. So we thought a lot about this particular detail. And yeah, it is what we found with the most least toxic option for the guests that will be staying here.
And just long-term durability. This is where when you ever go in and do a lot of, take it down to the studs, you see what's called weeping windows, where right here, all that water, if you don't have proper eaves and you don't have proper tilt to your sill, then you get what's called weeping windows, where all the water just comes right down here, and there's like black mold, looks like teardrops coming down from each corner of the window.
Yeah.
This is what stops that.
Yeah.
And then this is something that I love seeing, but I also like how you've done it because it shows a nice option on the windows, because you can frame this up with wood and then come back in with, traditional flashing materials, but y'all have gone above and beyond. And if you're doing a bunch of these, now stainless steel, that's really luxurious.
It is.
You can have like just more of a common galvanized or something like that, and then if you go to any fabrication place, they'll bend this for you. They've got the brakes, and then you have to be very, very, very specific though. And so you might want to have something on a technical measuring side to where you can go in, and if you say I want a 90-degree bend here and this and that, they've got the big machines. If you've never done that, it's great to explore that and getting some of these type of details into the long-term durability of your projects.
And back to your, what we were talking about before on having a team that you can work with, Gail and Brad, Gail helped design the system. Brad, technically measured everything before we had it fabricated, once the Hempcrete was in, once the frame was in. And so it's just an effort, from design to implementation or installation, to make sure we get it right.
Again, you all have to be thinking with the same brain, and that takes effort. And so y'all had a lot of meetings, I'm guessing, along the way. And it's nice to have two people that are so delightful to work with. So, well, let's finish on our tour. So you were getting drywall completely out of the unit here, and so you've got all your partition walls using Hempcrete as well. Tell us about the benefits of that, and then how that plays into what you have in this wall system and what we have.
Yeah, I think there are several reasons we chose to go with Hempcrete in the interior walls. One, for simplicity, using less materials, different materials. And also for sound quality, but then also for beauty, plaster in the bathroom, plaster, in the kitchen, using that with the Hempcrete.
And then, so when you've got different materials joining,
Yes.
Now they shrink and swell at different rates, and now you've either got a crack. So if you've got all one material, especially where those walls come together, that's a nice benefit because you don't have that shrink swell differentiation, and there's no cracks.
Right.
And like you said, there's nothing that captures the beauty of a natural build like the plaster. The plaster is a nice finish to everything, and then there's so many options with that as far as colors and textures and the ways to play with that. So it is definitely a favorable thing. But you can see, if you'll start here and then come back over, you can just see how it's the width of the framing member. And it does have wonderful sound qualities, and also the safety if there's ever a fire and you need to retreat and get away.
Yeah.
You've got a fireproof room next to a fireproof room next to a fireproof room throughout the house, and so if ever anything bad happens on one end of the house, it's not going to make its way through as easy. So.
And it's also one more, since the lime is so alkaline, it's just one more guard against mold as well in an environment that has water. So a bathroom, a kitchen, just one more layer of, reducing that risk for mold. So if we ever do have a flood in here or something and it can dry out, this wall is not going to mold like a dry wall probably will. It won't get water damage like a dry wall will.
Yeah, and even the bit of lime that's left from where the Hempcrete goes in wet, and then now it coats that stud, and so that stud has that lime on it to where it doesn't like being wet is the way it's been described to me, and I know there's a scientific term for that, and I don't want to butcher it, but it'll dry back out, and then the alkalinity is the real hero as far as keeping that mold from going. So a lot of good benefits from there. It checks everybody's check boxes and provides a lot of benefits. So it's nice to see it. This is an additional cost, and then so you can do the Hempcrete on the exterior envelope alone, and then I see a lot of people really going the extra mile and getting the extra benefit out of using them on the partition walls, and it's really nice. All right, tell us about your roofing system. This is a very robust system of several layers, and y'all played with the idea of doing Hempcrete or hemp wool, or what is it? There's weight considerations for Hempcrete. There's a lot of different moisture migration considerations. What y'all end up with, and then we'll throw some pictures in at the end while you're telling us what we've got.
Yeah, so we've got a metal roof, and under the metal roof are some battens, and so that's to manage any kind of moisture condensation that might happen with the metal roof. Under that is wood fiber, it's a Gutex. Under the wood fiber is our sheathing. We use zip system for that, and again we use that to mitigate for mold. OSB and plywood can be water sensitive, and we really wanted something that wasn't sensitive to water, so we picked zip.
And then under that, inside the envelope, so that's our air barrier, is hemp wool, and then our finished ceiling is a tongue and groove.
So right up here you can see how the tongue and groove is a nice, beautiful cosmetic finish, and then your surface area, and just immediately above that is the hemp wool.
Yes.
And then that's inside your air barrier
Right.
envelope that is established by the zip system. And so that's a complete zip system with the tape joints and everything
Yes.
up there that keeps the moisture out and then performs that barrier. Nice, nice. This custom stargazing platform is also used as a water cistern. Now,
Right.
tell us about this and the functionality of it. And I know Dripping Springs is very attuned to rainwater harvesting.
Yeah.
And, you know, putting the straw on the ground and getting a well is getting more expensive by the minute. And so talk to us about this.
Yeah, so when we bought this property, it already had a rainwater catchment system with the house. And we love the rainwater. It tastes amazing. It is cleanest water you can drink. There's nothing in it, basically. And so we wanted to basically supply that water for our guests as well. And so we built the concrete cistern to capture 60,000 gallons of rainwater. And so we'll have a filtration system on it. And yeah, all of the water will be captured by the cottages, and the roofs of the cottages, and they will all go into the cistern.
And so the environmental stewardship of that is just phenomenal, let alone the quality of the water, like you were mentioning, and you have control of everything.
Yes.
And so if you don't like what's in the water, or you're sensitive to it, or it bothers for you, if you just want the higher quality, I know people, the laundry comes out softer, your hair is softer, your skin feels better,
Yes.
all of those things, and you get the minerals in your water. And so this is how you do it, and this is arguably best in class as far as like a water catchment and a cistern on here, but it's lovely. And so y'all had that engineered to where you can go hang out up on top, so it's got a
Yes.
rooftop to it
Yes.
as well.
So yeah, we'll be installing some stairs and a railing, and we'll be able to do some stargazing, some yoga up there, all kinds of stuff.
Great connection on the features on that, to where something that's a necessity is also an architectural feature, and it's also a recreation area. So well done on that.
Thank you.
All right, so you're one of those that I call a cook in the kitchen. You're coming up with good ideas, and there's a lot of good ideas that are out there where those great ideas make their way to the marketplace, and there's a lot of capital out there looking for good ideas. I know y'all got a pitch deck, and we'll make that available to our viewers here, but tell us in general your concept here. You've got a very nice, slow, methodical pathway to it. Y'all didn't rush into this. It's so well thought out. Tell us about that vision and how it's unrolling and how people can engage with you.
Yeah, so this is the first of 6 cottages that we hope to build. And eventually we'll also have a retreat house. So 6 small 1-bedroom units and a retreat house. And yeah, we're doing it in phases. This is phase 1, where we're installing the utilities and the first cottage. Phase 2 will be 2 more cottages, and hopefully we'll implement things that we learned from this first cottage. And then phase 3 will be 3 more cottages, and then our phase 4 will be the retreat house. And so yeah, we are actively looking for investors that are aligned with our vision to, build healthy, sustainable vacation rentals for people that are sensitive to mold, to chemicals, and to EMFs.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful area. This is, as you look around, you see the Texas Hill Country out of here. This is known as I think it's nicknamed the wedding capital of Texas,
Yeah.
in the Dripping Springs area. So there's a lot of hospitality and a lot of short-term rentals in the area. And so I think the health and wellness focus of people being able to detox is just going to add a great emphasis to you. And we look forward to seeing your success. So thanks for having us out and having us on the tour. It's been great.